Hey guys, Chris here with Project Nerf, and today is a very special day. We're going to do the very first project in a brand new series that we're doing for you. Let's take a look.
Paging Dr. Chris. Dr. Chris to the ER. Paging Dr. Chris to the ER, please.
Okay, as I said in the intro, we're going to do a brand new series for you. Welcome to Project Nerf ER. The purpose of this series is to take project blasters that we've acquired from various places. These are modified blasters that didn't exactly come out the way someone intended them to. So without further notice, let me introduce you to our first candidate. We've got a Strayven. And as you can see here, a lot of the integration work is pretty rough on this blaster. And the angle is somewhat messed up. You can see instead of it being nice and straight, it's got a tip up. It's bent up a little bit in the back. It's missing the battery door. Some of the paint is scraped and beat up. I'm not being overly critical. Integration work like this is very, very difficult to do well. You guys might want to cite Mag212 or Mr. Nathan to see how to do it properly. But so our mission with this blaster is to get it apart, de-integrate it, correct the angle issue, put it back together and do the integration again, and then go on ahead and do our full standard upgrade package on the internals, redo the paint. So this is going to be done over the course of a couple of videos. So without further ado, let's dive into this thing. The first thing we're going to do is get it apart and see what kind of internal bonding we've got. Okay, as I said, guys, as you can see here that the integration work on this around here is pretty rough. This epoxy putty wasn't sanded. It looks like it was just kind of slapped on there. There's some big gaps in it. So we've got a lot to correct here. It was missing the battery door, but fortunately I had a spare one laying around. So let's get the mag out of here. It's a pity. The paint job and all this blaster is really cool. I kind of like it. But so let's get this thing flipped over, get the screws out of it, and see what kind of internal bonding we've got. Like I said, as you can see, this is really, really rough. So hopefully they didn't do too much on the inside. Okay, so we've got the screws loose here, and we're going to try to go ahead and get this thing apart. It was painted on the inside, which I don't normally do because it makes them hard to take apart, but I think we can get it here. Alright, so we've got it opened up, and looks like some smooth cast 65D bonding, maybe? I'm not even sure what's going on with that. But it's definitely going to be a chore to unintegrate this. So anyway, we're going to continue on stripping everything out of the inside. Obviously, there's been some wiring work here. Never good when we don't have heat shrink and things like that. But anyway, we're going to get it apart the rest of the way and then start doing this de-integration here. Okay, so we've got all the guts out of it. You can see there's some internal bonding here. Some of it doesn't look real good. So we're going to literally just try to take these internal bonds out where we find them. I've got a little screwdriver and an X-Acto knife. And be very, very careful when you're trying to do this, guys. A, you don't want to take away any plastic that you don't need to. And B, you can slip with one of these tools and cut yourself really, really quickly. So like down here, I don't think it's going to be too big of a problem. We're just going to kind of dig away at it and hit the bottom. And so we can get some leverage on some of these bonds. This, you can generally pop them up out of there. Trying to get in here behind, you can see the, let me dump that out. You can see a little bit better. You can see the plastic where the handle was cut. Generally, if you can get behind whatever the bonding is, you can pop it loose from the plastic, just like I did right there. You see the plastic come loose? And generally, once you get that to happen, it's not too big a deal to make these integrations let go. That's not to suggest that this is easy. It takes sometimes hours and hours and hours of work. And then once you get it apart, you still have to worry about cleaning out all the rest of your old gunk. And in this one's case, then I've got to see what went south with the angle here. And you can see how really high that is. This should be setting much lower. This should have been cut out. And this thing should have been setting a little flatter like that. This would have been a little farther down. But, so anyway, I'm going to continue removing the stuff, and I'll get back to you. Alright, I've got it mostly here. Just got one little... There we go. So obviously we've got a lot of epoxy putty and smooth cast to still get back off of here. But we got it apart, and I did get the other half of it as well. I got you. There we go. So, lots and lots of cleaning up still to do on this stuff before we can reset everything and try to reintegrate it. Alright guys, as you can see we've got most of the stuff cleaned off. The rest of it we can do with sanding. I got all the big smooth cast 65 out of here. And so on the back of this, sadly the stock mount broke off. That's sad, but not a huge tragedy. The only thing that we lose is the post that our return spring sits on. But once this is all integrated back together, we'll tend to that. It's not a big deal. Alright, so you can see just by putting it together loosely, let's see if I can kind of hold it in place here, that our angle is already much nicer. That it's doesn't have this, before it was like this and cocked up on an angle here. So, but now it just kind of naturally sets a little smoother, a little straighter. So what I like to do with my bonding, I put a couple of screws in this to hold it together. Okay, we're going to set it up, get it roughed into position, and we're going to use the hot glue gun to tack it in place. And then we'll break out some epoxy putty, and we'll go from there. Alright, as you can see, we've got it hot glued back together here, and the angle is much nicer. We've got it nice and straight going this way. Everything's nice and level here, and you can see we've got some hot glue bonding. Before we start with the epoxy putty, we're going to do a little reshaping. As you can see at the front here, it's got this big gap. So what we're going to do is take the Dremel and cut a little bit of this back and kind of ride that stripe body line. Take that out of there. And what that's going to do is allow us to shape this a little smoother and cleaner, and we'll probably take some of that down with the Dremel as well. Like that. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, and then we're going to start epoxy putty. You see we've got a little plastic set in here, and what this is going to do is stop our epoxy putty from sticking together on either side so we can still open the blaster. So I've got the epoxy putty kneaded up. We're going to take a piece of it and stick it in here and see if we can get something done here. You generally want to wear gloves when you do this stuff. I've got a little more than we need, but that's okay. Let's get this other side. Again, it's probably more than I have to have here. I'm really trying to get it down in the groove there. There's a pretty healthy gap. Okay guys, and a little pro tip here. To get some water while your epoxy putty is still damp, you can take and get it on your finger and begin to rub the epoxy putty smooth. And this will save you a ton of sanding later. So just a little bit of water on the epoxy putty, and you can see right there it's starting to really smooth over well. You can kind of work it back and make these tighter corners, and that will just be less material that you have to remove later. You can see there's a big difference here and then there. So we're going to work this side as well. Keep working while I've still got a little fullness to this epoxy putty. Oops. And epoxy putty does set up really quick, guys, so you gotta do this little bits at a time. Just mix a little bit, put it on, mix a little bit, put it on. And I like to do my external bonding like this first, because it helps seal everything up and stops our smooth cast from leaking out of the inside of the blaster. You can see there, that's stuff starting to come along pretty good. There's a little gap there. So we're going to mix up a little more, keep going, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so you can see our epoxy putty's kind of yellowed over and hardened up a bit. So I've taken the screws back out of the Raven body. I think we've got enough bonding here to go ahead and separate this. Now, I've kind of wedged this with a screwdriver, but you can see where this plastic really comes into play here, guys. Okay, when we peel that off, you see it prevents things from sticking together in there that we don't want to stick. So, and it just peels right loose of the epoxy putty. And what we're going to do here, this screw boss, we're going to get in here and try to cut down a little bit of this material right here. So you can see here, it's sticking up proud past the body, so we've got to just trim that down. Get an X-Acto knife. Does this very, very well. Does it pretty quickly. And again, be very careful when you're doing this stuff, guys. You can slip and hurt yourself really, really fast. Alright, and let's see here how much trouble we're going to have getting this thing to go back together. That's not too bad. Little sanding on some of these parts yet. But you can see where we had our plastic in here. It made this nice ridge. That will sand down dead flat, but yet when you go to take it apart, you got a nice smooth surface on the inside to work with here. So what we're going to do, guys, is go ahead and finish up the rest of this epoxy putty work. And when we come back to you next time, all the epoxy work will be roughed in. It won't be finish sanded, but it'll be roughed in. Then we're going to go ahead and work on the internal bonding with some Smooth Cast 65D and get that taken care of. We're going to do our sanding and prep for paint, do the paint work, and hopefully get it finished up for you next video. Till next time, this is Chris for Project Nerf saying have a blast.